Hello and welcome to the 7th edition of Kindle Presents the Economic Times Global Business Summit, co-powered by Capgemini. Watch the experts and global leaders share their views on how financial institutions must navigate the economy in inflation and COVID-19, disrupting business models and accelerating existing trends.
Namaskar, greetings to everyone. India is often referred as the mother of democracy. Our deep-rooted democratic ethos are ingrained in the conscience of Indian society for more than 2,500 years in our civilizational history, which has enabled India to naturally become the largest democracy in the world. We are a nation which has paved its way in a multipolar world with its own philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which views the world as one family. India, like all other economies of the world, seemingly has just emerged from a crippling pandemic. Though we are still not clearly out of its clutches, however, India has managed to come out of the crisis with a silver lining. We are one of the fastest growing large economies of the world, and the course to become a $5 trillion economy by the year 26 is being worked at. India continues to play a pivotal role in the globalized world. We place our neighborhood first and we act east and have revitalized our approach to these policies. Connectivity projects are being implemented at an unprecedented pace in our neighborhood. Railway projects with Bangladesh, Nepal, Chabar, Sitwe ports in Iran and Myanmar, respectively. And inland water projects have created new transport corridors. The energy grids of India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar are linked. Power trade in our neighborhood has become a reality. In the post pandemic era, the world needs to think structurally and holistically, clearly defining the priorities for a cohesive, collaborative, and cooperative global agenda. More than ever before, we need partnerships and coalitions of countries willing to put their efforts, pool their resources in tackling problems of climate change, COVID 19, and other defining challenges of the modern world. India's traditions long stressed the importance of living in harmony with nature, and today India is amongst the front rank of nations with climate ambition. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Up next, we caught up with Rajeev Misra, CEO, SoftBank Investment Advisors. Let's listen in.
Hi Rajeev, thanks for joining us here today at the Global Business Summit. I want to begin by asking you a little about whatever is happening on the geopolitical front. What are you making? I mean, people are talking about a liquidity crunch like 2008. Is some sort of a global downturn or a recession around the corner, Rajeev? What are you making?
The banks are in great shape. The financial system is in good shape. There's enough savings and current account deposits in the US are at record highs. Individuals have enough savings. Unemployment is at record low. House prices are high, which is the biggest asset in Europe and US that individuals have. So the financial system is fine. Coming back to your question, I think this will be a prolonged affair because the West is agitated and united that they're not going to step back. This is not going to go away, which is an issue because it will lead to inflation. The Fed might go a bit easier on rate hikes because of that. So that's a positive.
Are you looking at assets which are more from conglomerates, something like a Tata Digital? Is there any intent to invest in any of these assets, specifically something like Tata Digital?
So we are speaking to a couple of conglomerates, Tata, Mahindra, who have amazing offline reach, amazing brands. They don't have to spend on customer acquisition because they have consumers across all their platforms. It'll come down to two things: the valuation,
okay,
and B, how independent and aligned is the management. If the management doesn't have ESOPs, doesn't have independence, will get stuck in the bureaucracy of the organization and won't be able to take decisions fast enough, then it doesn't work. Doesn't work for any of us.
Is this sort of imminent right now, Rajiv? And I mean, we'll sort of wrap up on that note.
Yeah, we've been working for 6 months. We've been working for 6 months.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Rajiv, for doing this.
Thank you, Samita. Anytime. Thank you.
Welcome back. Next up, we have Sriram Raghavendran, Head Innovations and Strategy at Samunnati Financial.
At Samunnati, we see a lot of potential and scope and innovation that's happening in the agricultural sector. For me, innovation is directly related to the speed and agility of how quickly we're able to turn around and create something new. And that's where cloud is really helping us, because it results in instant provisioning. Its paper use cost is very optimal. Security, we don't have to worry about it. It's really become the preferred platform for us to innovate on. Really, cloud is the way to go for innovation in the technology space today. Many of our platforms, what we call the enterprise backbone, are already on the cloud. Our ERP, our CRM, our loan management system, most of our core platforms are already on the cloud. But in addition to that, other than this enterprise backbone, when we are innovating in this space, for example, Samunnati works with almost about maybe half or more than 50% of the farmer producer organizations across India, across about 23 states. And we are building a platform which is already out there, which the farmer producer organizations use to identify where they are, where they need to go, digitize their farmers, engage with the farmers, communicate with the farmers, and help the farmers and extend loans to them, help in terms of transacting and buying their commodity and so on, right? They're all on the cloud today.
Up next, we heard from co-founder and CEO Paxful, Ray Yusuf. Let's take a look.
India has seen tremendous growth in peer-to-peer. Just at, we've experienced 110% in user growth just this January. Last year, we saw 60% revenue growth, taking India to be our second biggest market by volume, including margins. The margins are quite high in India, as they are in new economies where people are starting to figure out Bitcoin. But the great news is that the Indian people have figured it out, and they are leading the way in a most amazing way. The Indian people use Bitcoin for investments. Gold is a huge investment vehicle in India. And now Bitcoin is also becoming an investment vehicle. People are seeing that it's gold that you can actually move around and trade with each other. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin and a peer-to-peer marketplace like Paxful is that it allows people in India or anywhere else to access liquidity anywhere in the world. And some Indian users have done so with tremendous success. So I look forward to coming to India again and enjoying the immense hospitality of the Indian people and connecting with our users on the ground.
We are in conversation with the Managing Director, India, Head of Data Partnership and Innovation, APAC, GFK, Nikhil Mathur.
I personally believe that the shapers of tomorrow are those that have conviction to make radical changes based on early signals developing within their markets. The critical point would be trusted and integrated data in the entire company ecosystem. The top two use cases for AI and machine learning amongst CX professional includes developing customized and relevant products and services. And second is creation of more highly personalized experiences. As per one of the Oracle report, 86% of the CX leaders plan to use AI and machine learning to customize every product service by year 2024. From a technology perspective, predictive analytics versus reactive will become more critical, and it will help organizations make faster, more confident, data-driven decisions to win in the market. Ultimately, the future of work will be a combination of people with knowledge and expertise, bringing together data and technology to drive faster and better intelligent and business decisions accordingly. We're living in a VUCA world. When I say VUCA, it means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. It shows the uncertain nature of the world, and pandemic is a real example in front of us. Therefore, the key trends impacting businesses are disruptions, acceleration, data overload, and the new demands on sustainability. As technology advances in data collection, processing, and forecasting, data intelligence will play a greater role in connecting related data to discover comprehensive and, more importantly, integrated insights than ever before. To future-proof your business, data centricity will play a critical role in the whole game. Artificial intelligence is a support lever for business to define and enhance decision-making, leading to a greater outcome. For AI to transform the world, it needs to be trusted. Let me elaborate further. Let's say in today's time, digitally supported marketing allows an initiative to move from an idea to execution in a very short span of time versus multiple weeks as per the classical marketing. I personally believe trust in AI-powered intelligence promises to unlock opportunity and fuel the growth of organization. And I want to reinforce the fact that the world doesn't stand still, it is changing fast. And you need to keep up by understanding your consumers' ever-changing needs. We at GFK help businesses to move at a faster pace with the knowledge at speed.
Up next, let's hear from Bruce Flatt, CEO Brookfield Asset Management.
Given the, what has happened during the pandemic, the work from home, which has now gone on for 2 years, what is your view on the outlook for commercial real estate?
There are many types of commercial real estate, of course. I think what you're referring to is office, office real estate. I would just say that globally, we have a very large office portfolio. And what we're seeing today is that either companies are back in the offices or they're shortly going to be back in the offices or have plans to be back in the offices. And with COVID waning around the world, the reoccupation of offices continues to increase almost every week. Maybe the more important thing is when we're talking to global CEOs, they have no plans today of running a workforce from remote locations. Now, it's possible they'll give more flexibility. It's possible they'll operate their offices or build out offices a little bit different. But bottom line, most things are going back to similar to what they were before.
There has been a certain amount of decoupling due to geopolitical reasons between China and the US. There are perhaps two separate supply chains being built up. And most MNCs have a China plus one strategy. Now, India would like to be the plus one or like to be the main first among equals when it comes to the possible potential plus ones. I mean, there's Vietnam and Philippines and so on and so forth. What is your view on India's prospects in that regard?
Look, India is an incredibly attractive place to invest. We've been very lucky over the last decade of our involvement in India in a major way. And India has many advantages, the English language being a really important one for global companies, rule of law, and really a workforce that is entrepreneurial and can supply employment. So I think India has a number of great advantages, and I encourage everyone that's an influencer that's listening to this to take advantage of it during these times, because I think you will continue to build out the country in a great fashion.
You've so far not put any money into the Indian startup ecosystem, or what is referred to as the startup ecosystems. Is there anything in the works? Is that a sector which you would potentially look at going ahead?
So our growth investing business revolves around the $650 billion of assets that we have globally. So when we find a product that we can influence with our economy of businesses, we invest in it through our growth funds. And to date, we haven't done investments in India, but we have a large team in India. And when we come across some opportunities, we'd love to be able to put money to work. I suspect in the next few years, we'll find some opportunities to do that, and we're excited about it.
And thanks for giving us your time, and hope to see you physically perhaps a year from now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bodhi.
Up next is a conversation discussing the private equity market in 2022. Let's take a look.
Last year, we saw an unprecedented capital raise, not just by I mean, GA, it's different because it's a captive pool of capital, but for the others as well, for private equity as an asset class. But in the new year, just a couple of months into the new year, we are facing huge uncertainty around the world. Will their deployment be therefore a big challenge in 2022? How do you think all this affects the investing environment?
Well, Arjit, you're right. 2021 and even 2020 were some of the most exceptional years we've ever seen in private markets around the world, both in terms of capital raising, which set records, but also new investment activities. It was almost the golden moment for private equity and private capital. And it was really a function of a lot of deal activity, COVID recovery, the fact that the economy was really beginning to perform after a difficult 2020, and all that led to record deal activity. I mean, I think the markets were beginning to recognize that post-COVID and with the economic growth that were happening, and also with supply chain issues, that we were beginning to have very, very real systemic inflation. And that was going to lead to an increase in interest rates. And I think that concern began to really take over the psychology of the market. What worries me about it most is that despite the financial market correction that was taking place before Ukraine, and despite the concerns about interest rate rises, I think with Ukraine, the probability of a recession goes up.
If you look back, 2019-20, 70% of your total allocation was non-US. Will this continue, or now geopolitics will completely change your investment theme?
Well, I think what gives me great confidence in our investment program and for many global investors is that some of the long-term secular themes are still very much intact. And India is a great example of it. I mean, the move to a digital economy continues unabated. And I think that's a long-term secular growth trend that will continue to create opportunities for investors. I mean, the rise of, we call it the rise of digital India is fully developing and are going to create lots of investment opportunities as people capitalize on this wonderful wireless internet platform that's been created around the geo business. India in particular, this next decade could be the year where India really is poised for tremendous growth and tremendous innovation that will create opportunities for investors. So while you mentioned we've been investing in India for 20 years, I think the next 10 could be the most exciting of our time in India.
Thank you once again for taking part in ET's Global Business Summit.
Thank you, Arijit. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. Let's reimagine modern finance with Bill Winters, Group CEO of Standard Chartered.
I want to understand how technology is reshaping Standard Chartered and the bank's way of existence.
It's right at the core, as you would imagine, and in many ways, I think I expect other bank CEOs think of themselves as running technology companies as much as we're running finance companies. Mm-hmm. Both strands are important, but it takes a lot of forms. There's the whole legacy body of business that we do, which needs to digitize quickly. So the way that we interact with our customers, the way that we process transactions ourselves in our organization needs to be automated and digitized because that's what our customers expect. So but technology is right at the heart of everything that we're doing. We know that what customers want is convenience, especially for standardized day-to-day banking products. They want convenience. And if they can get that convenience by operating on a platform that they're already using very actively, whether it's a social media platform or a search platform or a messaging platform or a payments platform, to the extent that that's where they want to take and acquire some additional financial services, somebody's going to make it easy for them to do that. And that I think we should recognize that where the customers desire for convenience is best met on some existing platform, it will be our job to make sure that the products that they acquire through that platform are best in class, that we can hold our own. And the approach that we've taken in terms of working together with some of the big tech companies is to be their partner. But we have other missions as well, and that's to create some platforms of our own. So we're extremely proud, for example, of something that we set up in India called Solve. Solve is a platform that allows SMEs to interact with each other, with their suppliers, with financial services providers, with professional services firms. Now we've got well over 100,000 customers now and growing very, very fast. This is the convenience platform for that client sector.
Very exciting times indeed. Thank you once again, Mr. Winters, for taking your time out and talking to us. Hope to see you in person very soon. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Rajat.
Up next, we converse with Piyush Gupta, CEO DBS Bank, about riding the disruption wave. Let's listen in.
How are you seeing, the next 5 years? Are you seeing that there is a path clearly set about how the banks, global banks, Indian banks will take digitization and sustainability forward from here?
Saloni, I think to suggest that a path has been clearly set would be a stretch. And the reason for that is the pace of change is dramatic. Things are changing all around us. So I think it's very hard to say whether the path has been set in a firm direction for 5 years. But I think some things are obviously quite important to note. Number one, I call this the base case. I mean, table stakes for everybody in the world is digitization. It's been happening for several years. The pandemic has accelerated that at great pace. People have talked about 5 years of digitization happening in 5 or 6 months, and that is indeed true. We are seeing that across the spectrum in consumption. Digital consumption has gone through the roof. In fact, digital is today almost 15 or 16% of global GDP. That's extraordinary if you think about digital demand forming such a large part of global GDP. So that's one change in the direction of travel which has been set. A second, which has been set, is the actual capacity of companies and corporations to digitize themselves. So that has changed dramatically as well. The internal capacity and need for companies to digitize themselves. But the third thing that's happened, which has been quite interesting as part of this base case, I call it, is that the infrastructure itself has started getting digitized. And they started getting digitized at 3 different levels. One, large companies have started digitizing their own supply chain. The second is that more and more companies are beginning to use industry-level solutions and industry platforms to be able to bring efficiency. And finally, they're government-led solutions. So a lot of governments have realized that things have moved far enough along to be able to start sponsoring the same kind of efficiency and effectiveness, but at scale around the system. So at all levels, whether it's government-driven or industry-driven or anchor-driven, you can see that the nature of the business processes is being rethought.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. It's always enriching talking to you, and I hope the audience enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to be on your show again. Look forward to doing more of this.
Next up, we have a keynote address on empowering Asia's digital shift.
My company is run on a guiding principle of, quote, committed to empowering a brighter future for all our stakeholders. In a real sense, it seems that India is striving to do the same thing, and its future is bright indeed. We hope to contribute to that future by leveraging our finance and digital capabilities for clients and other stakeholders throughout India. MUFG's presence in India goes back 120 years, when we first helped Japanese cotton traders establish themselves in the province of Mumbai. Today, MUFG is one of India's leading foreign financial groups with more than 500 employees. MUFG's ambition has always been to establish ourselves as one of the top global foreign franchises in India. India obviously packs a tremendous impact globally as one of the world's largest economies and populations. This, of course, means that possibilities there are enormous. As India and companies like MUFG explore those possibilities. We are blessed by the healthy bilateral relationship between India and Japan. India's representation among MUFG's leadership ranks is just one indication of an upward trend in global influence. I'm not only hopeful, but also confident that by finding ways to collaborate, India and global corporates can expand and sustain a prosperous business environment together.